Welcome to Rockipedia. Tonight's featured artist, Van Halen. The Van Halen brothers, Eddie and Alex, were born in Amsterdam, Netherlands. Alex in 1953, Eddie in 1955. Sons of a Dutch musician, Jan Van Halen, who gave them piano lessons, and they both became piano players at a very young age. Later in their teen years, they started to jam together in the 1960s. Eddie on the drums and Alex on guitar. Eddie had a newspaper route that he would go out every day to make payments on his drum set. Every time he came home, he would find his brother Alex jamming on the drums. He noticed that his brother was better on the drums than he was, so he took over Alex's guitar, and then the history begins. In the early 70s, they first met David Lee Roth when they rented a PA system off of him. He also was a singer. So to save money, they let him sing in their band, which is funny because the band was called Genesis at the time, which also featured bassist Michael Anthony on the bass. The band obviously discovered the band name Genesis was taken and changed the name to Mammoth for a short time, eventually changing it to Van Halen, who Roth takes credit for, of course, saying that the name had power like Santana had. So, with the name in place, the band would play backyard parties in the club scene for the next 3 years. They got their first break when Gene Simmons of Kiss saw them at a club in 1976. He produced their first demo. He wanted them to change their band name to Daddy Longlegs. Oh, God, Gene. The band refused wisely, but Simmons opted out when he took the demo to Kiss management, and the Kiss management said that this band did not have a chance to make it big. Well, a year later, Gene ate their words, and Ted Templeman of Warner Brothers Records disagreed with Kiss management and signed the band to their first record deal in 1977. The band went to Sunset Sound Studios in Hollywood, California to record their debut album, which was released on February 10th, 1978, the self-titled album, Van Halen. A great rock album that kicks ass from the opening track, Running with the Devil, along with Ain't Talking About Love, Jamie's Crying, and the Kinks cover, You Really Got Me. It even features a guitar solo by Eddie, which featured a finger-tapping style of guitar playing, which would become legendary in guitar playing on the song Eruption. By 1996, the first album would go diamond status, selling over 10 million copies. This album definitely kicks ass. It's a great debut album for the band. I like every song on it. I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. The band went on tour with Black Sabbath that year, which is a very special time for me because, as I mentioned many times here on the radio show, it was my very first concert when I was 10 years old and inspired me to become a musician later on. The band was immediately noticed and putting on an explosive rock show. They went back in the studio in late 78 to record their sophomore album, which was released on March 23rd, 1979, entitled Van Halen 2. The band followed up their debut album with another kick-ass album. Van Halen 2 brings us some more kick-ass rockin' tunes, beginning with the hit singles Dance the Night Away, Beautiful Girls, and Somebody Get Me a Doctor. Also featured good tunes like Bottoms Up, Dead on Arrival, Woman in Love, and another cool solo by Eddie on an acoustic guitar called Spanish Fly. By 2004, the album would go 5 times platinum, selling 5.7 million copies. Another funny note, well, maybe to some, but the the album features a photo of Roth making one of his famous leaps in the air, while he actually fractured his ankle when he landed after taking the photo. Oops. Another great album, though, and I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. The band continued to tour, then released their third album on March 26, 1980, Woman and Children First. The album kicks off with a powerful guitar-ripping tune and The Cradle Will Rock, along with other hit singles off the album, Everybody Wants Some, Romeo Delight, and besides a few other cool tunes like Take Your Whiskey Home and Fools, the rest of the album kind of lacks a little enthusiasm. I'll give it a 3 out of 5 stars. The band stayed busy in the studio. The following year, the band released its fourth studio album on April 29th, 1981, entitled Fair Warning. The least selling album by the band, and after listening to this album, I can see why. Besides 3 good songs off the album, the 2 hit singles, Unchained, This Is Love, and another really cool song called Mean Street, this album is a flop. Not very well written, seemed to be rushed. This also caused the beginning of tensions between Roth and Eddie on the songwriting. Roth wanted to stay more on the pop route, Eddie wanted to demonstrate more serious, complex songs. Ted Templeman sided with Eddie, and Roth at this time decided to roll with it. The 3 good songs in this album save it from being a total flop, so I'll kindly give it a 1 out of 5 stars. Let's quickly go through the next album. Yes, it's heading down the same slope the last album did. On the April 14th, 1982, brings us studio album number 5 by the band Diver Down. This album should have been released on April 1st instead of April 24th, because it was a joke, ladies and gentlemen. Almost half of the album is cover songs. It should have been just a cover compilation. Another Kinks song on the album was covered, Where Have All the Good Times Gone? Also, cover songs, Pretty Woman, Dancing in the Streets, Big Bad Bill, and Happy Trails. The rest of the album, with the exception to one song, Little Guitars, is the only good song on this whole freaking album. This album sucks, ladies and gentlemen. Just giving my opinion. I'm not even going to give it a rating. Let's move on. On a good note, the band entered the Guinness Book of World Records by earning $1.5 million for playing a 90-minute set at the US Festival in 1983. Not too bad. That same year, the band went into Eddie's brand new studio that he built, 5150 Studios, to record their next album, which was released in the beginning of the new year on January 9th, 1984. The 6th studio album, simply entitled 1984. This album brought success along with controversy, and it continued tensions between Roth and Eddie. Most critics accepted this album. Some said Eddie copped out because he played keyboards on the top 2 singles on the album, Jump and I'll Wait. What the hell is the big deal? He started out on piano as a kid, so he wrote some songs on the keys. What the hell is wrong with that? I'll tell you, these critics. Anyway, Back to the success of the album, it hit number 2 behind Michael Jackson's Thriller album that year. Jump went to number 1 on the Billboard 100. Panama and Hot for Teacher also became hit singles. Hot for Teacher was one of the most requested videos on MTV that year. 1984 was a very commercial album, but the most successful up to this point in the band's career. I like the album a lot. Even though it's very commercial, I don't think there's a bad song on it. I like it a lot, and I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Agree or disagree with me? That's your choice. Tensions were building over the last few years. Eddie was not happy with Roth's egotistical ways and antics on stage. Sometimes Roth going through a whole song not singing certain parts of the song because he was goofing off so much. Roth, of course, didn't like the control Eddie had in the band, and in the midst of the 84 tour, due to artistic and personal tensions between Roth and Eddie, came to its final boiling point when Roth left the band to pursue a solo career in 1985. This concludes part 1 of our featured artist Van Halen. Join us for part 2 right after these messages.